A man in a simple, bright blue hoodie is pulled from his suite class seat. He does not fight, but the security guard is rough. The ship lounge is silent, save for the click of phone cameras and the sharp, prejudiced voice of a single cruise steward. They dragged him off the ship like a criminal, humiliating him in front of hundreds. What they did not know was that this non-compliant passenger was holding the fate of their entire cruise line in his hands. By the next morning, that one act of prejudice would not just be a public relations scandal. It would be a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe. The main cruise terminal at the Port of Miami was a cathedral of human hurry. Sunlight fractured by the immense sloping glass ceiling cast long dramatic shadows across the polished floors. It was a place of frantic energy, of tearful goodbyes and joyful reunions, of overpriced coffee and the constant rolling thunder of luggage wheels. In the cavernous Oceanic Horizon VIP lounge, the atmosphere was one of forced tranquility. Here the chaos was muted, replaced by the polite clinking of porcelain on saucers and the hushed tones of important phone calls. Marcus Thorne sat in a worn leather armchair tucked away in the quietest corner. To any casual observer, he was utterly unremarkable. He wore a faded bright blue hoodie, the hood pulled down, a pair of dark wash jeans, and simple running shoes. His laptop, a sleek black machine covered in esoteric stickers related to coding languages, was his only focus. His fingers moved over the keyboard in a silent, rapid dance, lines of complex code scrolling across the screen. He had not touched the complimentary champagne or the artisanal cheese plate. He was quite simply working. At 37, Marcus was what the technology world called a ghost. He was the founder, chief executive officer, and chief architect of Synapse Systems, a Silicon Valley firm so disruptive it was spoken of in the same hushed, reverent tones as Google's secret projects or Apple's design laboratory. Synapse Systems' latest creation, Project Ether, was an artificial intelligence-driven logistics engine so powerful it promised to revolutionize any industry it touched. It could reroute global supply chains in real time to avoid weather delays, optimize fuel consumption to the single-digit percentage, and manage passenger flow with terrifying efficiency. Oceanic Horizon Cruises was Synapse Systems' first major client. After a year of brutal negotiations, they were on the verge of signing an exclusive $12 billion contract. The deal would save Oceanic Horizon an estimated $3 billion per year and give them an insurmountable edge over their competitors. The final step was a mere formality, an in-person good faith handshake, and final systems integration check at Oceanic Horizon's headquarters in New York. The problem was Oceanic Horizon had no idea who Marcus Thorne was. Synapse Systems was notoriously secretive. All negotiations had been handled through his lawyers and his chief operating officer. The Oceanic Horizon board knew the chief executive officer of Synapse Systems only by his initials Mount, and that he was personally traveling for the final sign-off on voyage 815 from Miami. They were expecting a titan of industry, a man in a tailored Italian suit, a voice sharp and laced with artificial sweetness cut through his concentration. "Sir, boarding for voyage 815 with connection to New York has begun." Marcus looked up. Patricia Stone, a senior cruise steward with a smile that did not reach her eyes, was looking down at him. Her gaze lingered for a fraction of a second too long on his bright blue hoodie. "Thank you," Marcus said, closing his laptop and sliding it into a simple worn backpack. He joined the priority queue, standing behind a man named Braden Holt. Braden was the antithesis of Marcus. He was loud, dressed in a flashy suit with a thick gold watch, and was currently shouting into his Bluetooth earpiece. "Listen, you tell them I do not care what the zoning board says. We break ground on Monday, or I will have their jobs. Got it?" Patricia Stone was at the gangway scanning cruise cards. When Braden Holt stepped up, her smile became genuine. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Holt. So good to see you again. Champagne before departure?" "You know it, Patricia," Braden boomed, winking at her before striding down the gangway. Then Marcus stepped forward. He held out his phone with the suite class boarding pass, Suite 1A. Patricia scanned it. The machine beeped. She looked at the screen, then at Marcus, then back at the screen. Her smile tightened. 1A. She asked, her voice laced with a subtle, unmistakable skepticism. That is correct, Marcus said calmly. It is just. This is the suite and VIP entrance, sir. Are you sure you are in the right line? Marcus felt a familiar cold weariness settle in his stomach. He had been in this scene before. The quiet assumption, the judgment based on his skin color and his refusal to wear a costume of wealth. I am sure, he said, tapping his phone screen. Suite 1A, Marcus Thorne. Patricia's eyes narrowed. She knew high-value passengers. She checked her manifest daily. This name was not flagged. He was not a celebrity, not a politician, not one of their diamond elite members. He was, in her eyes, a nobody who had somehow stumbled into a place he did not belong in. Probably a low-level employee traveling on company points. Fine, she snapped, her voice losing all its manufactured warmth. Go ahead. Try to put your bag in the closet, but just so you know, space is extremely limited. You will probably have to check it with the porters. Ah! Marcus said nothing. He just nodded, shouldered his backpack, which contained the code that was worth more than the entire ship he was boarding, and walked down the gangway. The cool, salty air of the ocean hit him, and he had a sudden, sharp feeling that this voyage was not going to be a simple one. The Oceanic Horizon VIP suite deck was an oasis of beige leather and brushed aluminum. Marcus settled into Suite 1A, the window seat. He was relieved to be out of the terminal, his mind already drifting back to the last few lines of code he had been refining. He unzipped his backpack, pulled out his laptop, and set it on the table, ready to work. Braden Holt was across the aisle in Suite 1C. Already on his second glass of champagne, his feet propped up on the bulkhead, talking loudly to the passenger behind him about his golf game. Patricia Stone moved through the deck with a practiced, almost aggressive grace. She offered pre-departure drinks, her smile radiant for Mr. Holt. But when she got to Marcus, her face was a mask of cold professionalism. Drink, sir? Just water, please. No ice. Fine. She returned moments later, placing the plastic cup on his table with a little too much force, splashing a few drops onto his laptop. Careful, Marcus said, his voice quiet, but firm as he grabbed a napkin to wipe the machine. Patricia stiffened, her eyes flashing. It is just water, sir. She saw his reaction not as a reasonable request for care, but as an affront, an accusation. She turned on her heel and marched back to the galley, muttering to her junior colleague, Emily. Can you believe the attitude on 1A? Splashes a little water and he glares at me like I scratched his car. Emily Carter, a younger woman on her first year sailing international waters, peeked around the curtain. She saw a man in a bright blue hoodie quietly wiping his computer. He did not look threatening. He seems fine, Patricia. Maybe he is just stressed. He is entitled, Patricia hissed. They get one upgrade using their mother's loyalty miles, and they think they own the ship. Watch him. He is going to be a problem. The ship departed. It moved into the hazy ocean horizon with a powerful roar. Once they reached cruising speed, Marcus, having foregone the meal service, was deep in concentration. His laptop screen was set to a low brightness, displaying a dark mode coding interface. He was plugged in with noise-canceling headphones, not listening to music, but to an internal audio log of system requirements. Braden Holt, having finished his third champagne and a heavy meal of braised short rib, decided it was time for a nap. He reclined his seat fully, adjusted his eye mask, and let out a huff of annoyance. He flagged down Patricia as she passed. Patricia, darling, he whispered, loud enough for the first few rows to hear. This gentleman, he gestured across the aisle at Marcus. His screen, it is distracting. The glare. It is giving me a migraine. Patricia looked at Marcus. His screen was dim, facing away from Braden, and the lounge lights were still fully illuminated. The complaint was, by any objective measure, absurd. But Patricia did not see it that way. She saw her high-value, familiar passenger, Mr. Holt. being inconvenienced by the man in the bright blue hoodie she had already decided was a problem. This was her chance to assert her authority. She marched over to Marcus's seat. She did not tap his shoulder. She rapped her knuckles hard on the hard plastic shell of his seat right next to his head. Marcus jumped, yanking his headphones off. "Yes, is something wrong?" "Sir, you are going to have to turn that off," Patricia commanded. Her voice was no longer polite. It was hard, authoritative, and loud. Marcus was bewildered. Turn. Turn what off?" "My laptop." "Yes, your laptop. The screen is bothering other passengers." Marcus glanced across the aisle. Braden Holt had his eye mask on, pretending to be asleep, a small smirk playing on his lips. "My screen," Marcus replied, keeping his voice low. "The lounge lights are on, and my brightness is at its lowest setting. I am not watching a movie. I am working. I do not care what you are doing, sir. A passenger has complained. You need to put it away now." "I do not think that is a reasonable request," Marcus said, his voice still calm, but with a new steel-edged precision. "I am traveling in suite class. I am working quietly during the daytime. I am well within the cruise line's own policies." This was for Patricia the ultimate challenge. He was not just refusing, he was quoting policy. He was questioning her. "Sir," she said, her voice rising, "I am the head guest services officer on this deck. My instructions are a matter of safety and passenger comfort. I am not asking you. I am telling you, put the laptop away or I will have you cited for noncompliance." The words noncompliance echoed in the quiet lounge. Several passengers looked up. Double quotes, "nan-compliance." Marcus repeated, his eyebrows raising. "For using a laptop? That seems excessive, do you not think? Are you refusing a crew member's instruction?" Patricia's voice was now sharp as glass. She was creating a scene, and she was pinning him as the cause. "I am respectfully trying to understand why I am being singled out for a baseless complaint," Marcus said. "If you can give me a valid regulatory reason, I will be happy to comply. But he does not like my screen is not one." Patricia's face flushed a deep, angry red. He had called her bluff. She had no regulatory leg to stand on, so she pivoted. "I do not like your tone, sir. You are being aggressive and disruptive. I have asked you politely, and you are arguing with me. That is it. I am reporting this." "Report what exactly?" Marcus asked, genuinely baffled. But Patricia was already marching back to the galley, her mind made up. The man in 1A was a threat. He was non-compliant. He was aggressive. She picked up the internal phone to call the staff captain, her hands shaking with self-righteous adrenaline. "We have a situation in the VIP lounge," she said, her voice dripping with manufactured fear. "Passenger 1A, he is becoming erratic. I think he is a security risk." The rest of the voyage was excruciatingly tense. Marcus, realizing he was in a no-win situation, had powered down his laptop and stowed it in his bag. He sat perfectly still, staring out the window at the endless expanse of clouds and ocean, his mind a cold, calculating storm. He was not angry. Not yet. He was processing data. The variables, Patricia's immediate hostility, Braden Holt's malicious complaint, the silent complicity of the other passengers. The equation was grimly familiar. Patricia, for her part, made a show of avoiding his row. She and the purser walked past several times, whispering and casting pointed, concerned glances his way. Emily, the junior steward, looked horrified. She tried to catch Marcus's eye to offer an apologetic smile. But he was lost in thought. When the ship began its approach to the next port, a different kind of announcement came over the public address system. "Ladies and gentlemen, as we dock, we ask that you please remain in your seats. Due to a situation on board, we will be having authorities meet the ship. Please remain seated until all passengers have been cleared." A murmur of alarm went through the lounge. Passengers on other decks craned their necks, wondering if there had been a medical emergency or a terror threat. In the VIP section, everyone knew. All eyes were on Marcus. He closed his eyes, his jaw tight. The ship docked. The gangway connected with a heavy thump. The safety sign went off, but no one moved. Then they heard the heavy footsteps. Two uniformed port police officers and a thick-necked, imposing man in an Oceanic Horizon supervisor's uniform boarded the ship. The supervisor, whose name tag read Hank Reynolds, was holding a printout. Patricia Stone was right behind them, her face a mask of grim vindication. She pointed a single trembling finger. "That is him, Suite 1A. He was aggressive, non-compliant, and I felt threatened." Hank Reynolds strode down the aisle and stopped directly in front of Marcus. He was a man built on authority, and he clearly relished wielding it. "Sir, you need to come with me now." His voice was a drill sergeant's bark. Marcus opened his eyes. He looked calmly at the three men blocking his way. "On what grounds?" he asked. "Do not you start," Hank snapped. "We have a report of a non-compliant, disruptive passenger. Grab your bag. You are coming with us." "I was not disruptive," Marcus stated, his voice even. "I was working. Your flight attendant harassed me based on another passenger's absurd complaint." "He is arguing." "See," Patricia said, her voice high and shrill. "He is aggressive." At this, Marcus slowly reached for his backpack. Hank tensed, his hand dropping to his belt. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Marcus froze, his hands in the air. "My bag." "You told me to grab my bag? We'll get the bag," one of the police officers said, yanking the backpack from under the seat. "Now let us go," Hank commanded. Marcus unbuckled his safety belt and stood up. He was a tall man, but he made no threatening moves. He simply intended to walk off the ship. But Hank was not satisfied with simple compliance. He wanted submission. "Turn around." "Hands behind your back," Hank barked. "Am I being arrested?" Marcus asked, his voice sharp for the first time. "What is the charge?" "You are being removed," Hank growled. "You can discuss the charges later. Turn around." "I will not. I am walking off this ship, but I am not being put in handcuffs. I have done nothing wrong." This was all the excuse Hank needed. He is resisting. Before Marcus could react, Hank grabbed his left arm in a painful twist. The second police officer grabbed his right. They were not gentle. They were making an example of him. "You do not have to do this," Marcus said, his voice strained as his arm was wrenched behind him. "Stop resisting," Hank yelled, though Marcus was only trying to maintain his balance. The other passengers were dead silent. Phones, however, had emerged. In the rows behind, screens were held aloft, their small red record lights glowing. They recorded the entire brutal spectacle. They recorded Braden Holt peering over his seat, a smug, satisfied look on his face. They recorded Patricia Stone standing by the galley, her arms crossed, watching her problem be solved. They recorded as Hank and the officers, with unnecessary degrading force, shoved Marcus forward. He stumbled. They yanked him back up. They did not just escort him. They dragged him. They manhandled him down the narrow aisle, his shoulder banging into the seat headrests. His bright blue hoodie was pulled awry. His backpack was dragged on the floor by the other officer. His dignity was being systematically stripped from him in front of a ship full of silent witnesses. As he was hauled through the galley, he made eye contact with Emily. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror, tears welling. She looked like she wanted to speak, to scream, but she was frozen. A tiny cog in a machine of prejudice. They shoved him onto the gangway, the doors closing behind him. And the last thing the passengers of Voyage 815 heard was Hank Reynolds' voice echoing in the tunnel. "You want to be a smartass, huh? We will see how smart you are in a holding cell." The ship was silent for a long moment. Then Braden Holt broke the silence. He raised his plastic water bottle. "Patricia, darling," he called out. "Thank you for your service. You deserve a bonus for taking out the trash." Patricia, to her eternal shame, smiled. Marcus was detained in a windowless, beige-painted room in the airport security substation for 4 hours. The officers who had removed him filed their report. heavily influenced by Hank's and Patricia's statements. Subject was belligerent, refused multiple crew instructions, became aggressive. Removal was necessary for the safety of the voyage. Marcus sat on a hard plastic bench, his fury now a block of ice in his chest. He was methodical. He refused to answer any questions without legal counsel. He made one call, not to a flashy corporate lawyer, but to his oldest friend, a razor-sharp civil rights attorney from the American Civil Liberties Union. After 4 hours of bureaucratic nonsense with no actual charges to file, as being annoying to a cruise steward was not a federal crime, they were forced to let him go. An officer shoved his backpack at him. "You are lucky we are not charging you with interference." The officer grumbled. Marcus shouldered his bag, walked out of the substation and into the main terminal. He pulled out his phone. It had exploded. A dozen different videos of his removal, filmed from every conceivable angle, were already on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The hashtags #SailingWhileBlack, #OceanicShame, and #JusticeFor1A were trending worldwide. The clips were horrifyingly clear. They showed his calm questioning. They showed Patricia's escalating hostility. They showed Hank's immediate, unprovoked aggression. The most damning clip, filmed from row 3, had perfect audio. It captured Braden Holt's initial complaint about the glare and his final triumphant taking out the trash comment. It also captured Patricia's smile. The internet had already identified Patricia Stone, Hank Reynolds, and Braden Holt, their full names, their jobs. Their social media profiles were being blasted across the web. Then Marcus saw the official statement from Oceanic Horizon, posted just 30 minutes earlier. Oceanic Horizon is aware of an incident on voyage 815 from Miami resulting in the removal of a non-compliant passenger. Safety and security are our top priorities, and we do not tolerate any disruption to our operations or any threat to our crew and passengers. We are investigating the incident. Non-compliant passenger, threat to our crew. They were doubling down. They were backing Patricia. Marcus stood in the middle of the bustling terminal, invisible again. He read the statement, and the ice block in his chest began to burn. They had not just humiliated him. They had lied about him. They had branded him a threat. He opened his own phone. He sent one single text message to his chief operating officer. Cancel the 9 a.m. meeting with Pendergast. Terminate the Project Ether negotiations. Send the standard notification of breach of conduct and clear my schedule. I am calling our contacts at Summit Seas. He then opened his laptop, connected to the airport's public Wi-Fi, and in a keystroke transferred his entire massive personal and corporate holdings out of the financial institutions that partnered with Oceanic Horizon. It was a digital tremor, a quiet shifting of tectonic plates. The earthquake would hit in the morning. He closed the laptop, put it back in his bag, and walked out of the airport, hailing a simple taxi to a downtown hotel. He did not check into the penthouse. He got a standard room, ordered a club sandwich, and watched the city lights come on. The storm had begun at 6 a.m. Central Time, the Oceanic Tower. The cruise line's sprawling corporate headquarters in New York was already in chaos. Arthur Pendergast, the chief executive officer of Oceanic Horizon, was a man who lived by the stock ticker. When he woke up, he did not check the weather. He checked the pre-market trading. This morning, he choked on his first sip of coffee. Oceanic Horizon, ticker O, was down. It was not just down, it was falling. 8%, 10%, 12% in pre-market. A catastrophic, inexplicable plunge. He stormed into his office, his assistant running behind him. What the hell is going on? Did a ship go down? Did we miss a Securities and Exchange Commission filing? No, sir. His assistant, a young, perpetually terrified man named Timothy, stammered. It is. It is a video from voyage 815 yesterday. A video. A video is costing us $8 billion in market capitalization. Pendergast roared. Timothy quickly queued up the #OceanicShame hashtag on the boardroom's main screen. Pendergast watched, his face draining of all color. He saw the quiet black man, He saw Patricia Stone's sneer. He saw Hank Reynolds' thuggery. He heard Braden Holt's trash comment. Get me public relations. Get me legal. Get me the manifest for Voyage 815, Pendergast screamed. Who is that passenger? And find me, Patricia Stone, and Hank Reynolds. I want them fired before the market opens. We are trying, Sir Timothy said, his hands shaking. The public relations team issued a standard statement last night, but it seems to have made things worse. Non-compliant passenger. Pendergast read the statement aloud, his voice trembling with rage. Are you insane? He looks like a hostage. He is the calmest person in the video. Fire the person who wrote this. Fire everyone. An emergency board meeting was called for. 7 a.m. The room was filled with grim-faced executives in expensive suits, all watching the stock ticker bleed red. We can fix this, Pendergast said, trying to project a calm he did not feel. We will issue a full-throated apology. We will fire the employees. We will give the passenger a lifetime of free cruises. We will make a donation. This is a public relations crisis, but it is manageable. His board members looked unconvinced. The scale of the backlash was unprecedented. Arthur, said a board member, the problem is larger than the video. The call volume at reservations has dropped 60%. We have a corporate boycott movement trending in 3 countries. This is bad. It does not matter. Pendergast slammed his fist on the mahogany table. It does not matter. In 2 hours, none of this will mean a thing. At 9 a.m., we have the final handshake with Synapse Systems. The chief executive officer, this Mount character, is coming in to sign the Project Ether contract. When that news hits the wire, our stock will not just recover, it will soar. This $12 billion deal is the only thing that matters today. This unfortunate incident will be a footnote. He leaned back, breathing heavily. Project Ether was his baby. It was his legacy. It would save them. Timothy, he barked at his assistant. Confirm the 9 a.m. meeting. Make sure the car is waiting for Mr. Mount at the Peninsula Hotel. Send up the champagne. The good stuff. Get it done. Timothy nodded, but his face was sheet white. Sir, about that. I got an email 15 minutes ago from Synapse Systems' legal department. An email? Pendergast scoffed. What are they adding a comma? Just print it, sir. Sir, it is a termination notice. The room went utterly, profoundly silent. The only sound was the hum of the ventilation system. What did you say? Pendergast whispered. Timothy, trembling, read from his tablet. Pursuant to Section 4 billion of the preliminary agreement. Conduct unbecoming, Synapse Systems is hereby terminating all negotiations related to Project Ether effective immediately, citing a catastrophic failure of corporate culture and a hostile environment that runs counter to Synapse Systems' core principles of integrity and respect. Pendergast stared. No, that is impossible. They cannot. Not today. It is a tactic. A last-minute negotiation. Get their chief operating officer on the phone. Get their lawyers. Get someone. I tried, Sir Timothy said, his voice barely audible. All our contacts are dark. The lines are disconnected. Then the phone on the center of the boardroom table rang. It was the direct private line. Pendergast lunged for it. Hello, this is Arthur Pendergast. There was a pause, and then a voice came on the line. It was calm. It was precise. It was cold as the grave. Mr. Pendergast, the voice said. This is Marcus Thorne. Arthur Pendergast froze. The name did not register. Thorne? Who is this? I am in a critical meeting. I do not have time for. You have the manifest for Voyage 815, the voice on the phone stated. It was not a question. Check Suite 1A. Pendergast's blood turned to ice water. He frantically motioned to Timothy, who was already typing. Timothy's eyes went wide. He held up his tablet. Passenger, Thorne, Marcus. Suite 1A. Pendergast stumbled, grabbing the back of a chair for support. Mr. Thorne. Oh, God, Mr. Thorne. I believe. I was your non-compliant passenger, Marcus continued, his voice devoid of all emotion. I was also the mount you were scheduled to meet this morning to finalize the Project Ether deal. The boardroom was a tomb. The executives who seconds before had been masters of the universe now looked like statues in a museum of horror. Mr. Thorne Marcus Pendergast stammered, his mind racing, trying to find a way, anyway, to salvage this. There has been a terrible misunderstanding, a catastrophic one. The employees responsible, Patricia Stone, Hank Reynolds, they are being terminated as we speak. They will never work in this industry again. What happened to you it was criminal. It was disgusting. It is not who Oceanic Horizon is. It is exactly who Oceanic Horizon is. Arthur, Marcus replied, his voice cutting. Your company did not fail because of 2 rogue employees. It failed because of a culture you created. A culture where a man like Braden Holt feels comfortable making racist jokes and your senior staff smiles. A culture where a young attendant like Emily is too terrified to speak the truth. A culture where your security supervisor's first instinct is violence, not de-escalation. And a culture where your first corporate response is to lie and blame the victim. I will fix it, Pendergast pleaded. The desperation was naked in his voice. I will fire everyone in that chain. I will personally apologize publicly. We will donate $10 million, $50 million to a charity of your choice. Please, do not do this. That contract, Project Ether, it is everything. It was everything, Marcus corrected him. You see, Arthur, my technology is not just about logistics. It is about data. It is about seeing patterns. And the pattern I saw on your cruise line yesterday was inefficient. It was a liability. He paused, and Pendergast could hear the faint click of a keyboard. Yesterday, your company chose to protect the comfort of a single obnoxious passenger, Braden Holt, over the rights of another. That is a bad algorithm. My software is designed to streamline systems. But your system is not broken, Arthur. It is rotten. And Synapse Systems does not partner with rotten systems. Please. Pendergast was openly begging now, his facade of power shattered. What do you want? Name your price. A seat on the board. Just do not walk away. Do not go to Summit Seas. There was a long, cold silence on the line. It is too late for that, Arthur, Marcus finally said. I am afraid you have a new story breaking in about ... 60 seconds. You should check the Wall Street Journal. Goodbye. The line clicked. Arthur Pendergast stared at the dead phone. What? What did he mean? Timothy's tablet pinged. He read the headline, his voice a whisper. The Wall Street Journal, Synapse Systems scraps $12 billion Project Ether deal with Oceanic Horizon, citing discriminatory incident involving Chief Executive Officer Marcus Thorne. Sir, there is more. Forbes just posted, Summit Seas announces exclusive $15 billion partnership with Synapse Systems. Welcomes Marcus Thorne as partner in innovation. The sound Arthur Pendergast made was not human. It was a strangled gasp. It's the sound of a man watching his entire empire burn to the ground in a single, self-inflicted inferno. The market officially opened and the floor fell out. The news hit the financial world like a shockwave. It was no longer a public relations crisis. It was a corporate execution. The Oceanic Horizon stocko did not just dip. It plummeted. The pre-market trading loss of 12% looked like a fond memory. In the first 10 minutes of trading, the stock fell 30%. Trading was halted. When it resumed, it fell another 15%. By noon, Oceanic Horizon had lost over $18 billion in market capitalization. The unfortunate incident with the man in the bright blue hoodie had vaporized nearly half the company's value. The hard karma was swift and merciless. Arthur Pendergast was fired. By his own board by 4 p.m. His legacy was a single day's trading record that would be taught in business schools for decades as the single most expensive act of prejudice in corporate history. Patricia Stone was fired, of course. But her problems were just beginning. Her face was everywhere. The poster child for cruise ship Karen, she was doxxed, harassed, and completely unemployable. She lost her apartment within a month and was last seen waitressing at a remote truck stop diner. Her smile now genuine and broken. Hank Reynolds was also fired, and the Port Police Department opened an internal investigation into his conduct. It was discovered he had 22 prior complaints of excessive force. He was stripped of his credentials and faced a civil lawsuit from Marcus Thorne, not for money, but to ensure he could never carry a badge or a position of authority again. Braden Holt's karma was just as precise. His company, Holt Realty, was identified. His clients, many of whom were minority investors or ran diverse companies, began pulling their contracts en masse. His seven-figure deal evaporated. He was forced by his partners to resign from the company he had built. He lost his reputation, his business, and his high-value status overnight. Even the cruise line itself was crippled. Summit Seas, now powered by the revolutionary Project Ether, began dominating every route. Their on-time performance hit 99%. Their fuel costs plummeted. Their stock soared. Oceanic Horizon, unable to compete, was forced to sell off assets, close hubs, and lay off thousands of employees. A tragic ripple effect that started with a single hateful assumption in Suite 1A and Marcus Thorne. He never released a grand public statement. He did not go on talk shows. He simply went back to work. His only public action was through Synapse Systems. The company announced the Thorne Carter Grant, a multi-million-dollar educational fund. It was named in part for Emily, the young steward who said nothing, but whose terrified eyes had shown a spark of humanity. The grant was dedicated to providing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics scholarships for students from underserved communities and funding ethics in technology programs. The final scene of the drama was not in a boardroom or a port. It was in a quiet university library 6 months later. A young black woman, a recipient of the first Thorne Carter Grant, was coding on her new laptop, a sticker of the Synapse logo on the back. She was building her own future, one line of code at a time, paid for by the karma that had finally and devastatingly come to collect. 6 months later, Marcus Thorne was a reluctant public icon. Synapse Systems' partnership with Summit Seas was a staggering success. Project Ether having revolutionized their efficiency and sent their stock soaring. Marcus, now forced into the spotlight, sat in his new minimalist office in Austin. Not coding, but staring at a piece of physical handwritten paper. It was a letter from Emily Carter. It had been forwarded from his new foundation, the Thorne Carter Grant, a name he had chosen as a symbol of hope. The letter itself, however, was a confession, not a thank you. It was a testament to the collateral damage he had inflicted. Emily wrote that she had been fired 2 days after the incident for failing to support her crew. She was blacklisted by every major carrier. Now, she was a waitress at a diner in her hometown of Topeka, Kansas, drowning in maritime school loans. "I do not know why I am writing," she confessed. "I guess I just need you to know I am not the person you named that grant after. I am a coward. I saw what was happening and I did nothing. I was scared of losing my job and I lost it anyway, along with my self-respect. I am so sorry." Marcus's anger was cold and precise. It was not directed at Emily, but at the toxic system that had crushed her. He buzzed his chief operating officer. "Sarah," he said, his voice flat, "I need you to quietly find out everything you can about a diner in Topeka and get legal in here." Meanwhile, in the tomb-like Oceanic Tower, the bankrupt company had one last venomous twitch. The board had hired Julian Blackwood as a restructuring chief executive officer. Blackwood was not a builder. He was a vulture, a specialist in squeezing blood from corporate corpses. "You see a corpse," he told his junior vice president. "I see an organ donor. We have one asset left, the narrative." His plan was audacious. Born of pure cynicism, sue Marcus Thorne and Synapse Systems for $20 billion, claiming tortious interference. The strategy: create a new false narrative that Marcus Thorne had staged the entire incident, provoking the crew and getting himself removed, all as a pretext to break his contract and flip his technology to Summit Seas. "I do not care what the truth is," Blackwood hissed, pacing the empty boardroom. "I care what a jury of pissed-off, unemployed former cruise workers can be persuaded to believe. Thorne is a coastal tech billionaire. We are honest jobs. This is not a case. It is a crusade." "It is insane," his vice president said. The videos show nothing. They show nothing." Blackwood snapped. "They show a cruise steward doing her job and a passenger refusing to comply. We just need one witness, one to flip, one to plant the seed of doubt." He identified his target, sliding a photo across the table. Emily Carter, fired, broke, living with her parents. She is desperate. And desperate people do not care about the truth. They care about survival. He picked up his phone. "Get me Robert Vance. Tell him to pack an overnight bag and a very large checkbook. I want him in Topeka by dinner." The roadside diner off the highway was where Emily Carter was finishing a double shift. Her feet aching, her bright cruise steward smile long dead. The bell over the door jingled, and a man in a suit so expensive it looked flammable sat at her counter. "Emily Carter?" the man asked. His voice was smooth and friendly. "Who is asking?" "My name is Robert Vance." He claimed to represent a consortium of unjustly terminated Oceanic Horizon employees. He leaned in, his voice dropping. "What if I told you we have reason to believe the entire incident on Voyage 815 was a setup? That Marcus Thorne is not a victim, but a predator. That he provoked your crew knowing it would create a scene." Emily was horrified. That is not what happened." He was quiet. Patricia was stressed. Vance cut in smoothly. "Your memory might be foggy. You were new. It was confusing." He slid a thick manila envelope across the counter. "Perhaps this will help jog it." Emily's hands trembled as she opened the clasp. Inside was not a legal document. It was a cashier's check payable to Emily Carter. The sum, $250,000. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. It was a life-changing, breathtaking amount of money. It was her loans paid off. It was a new start. It was an escape. "What? What is this?" she whispered. "That is a signing bonus," Vance said, "for joining our class action lawsuit as a key witness. All you have to do is sign this." He produced a second document, an affidavit, a corrected statement of events. "We have already prepared it based on what we believe the truth to be. Just sign it and that money is yours." This was a lie, a monstrous, soul-destroying lie. "And if I do not?" she whispered. Vance's friendly mask evaporated. His smile became a thin, cruel line. "If you do not, well then you are not a victim of Oceanic Horizon, are you? You are complicit. A good prosecutor could argue you were part of the conspiracy. Your blacklisting will look like a vacation. I can make sure you are not just serving coffee, Emily. I can make sure you are making it in a prison commissary." He stood, dropping the affidavit next to the check. "You are a coward, Emily. I read your file. I am not asking you to be brave. I am paying you to be smart. You have 24 hours. He walked out. Emily sank onto a stool, her legs giving out, staring at the $250,000 check and the stack of lies. In Austin. Marcus Thorne watched the entire confrontation on a high-resolution live feed. His security team, composed of ex-intelligence agents, had been in place for 10 hours. They had crystal-clear audio of Robert Vance's entire proposition. "They are not just rotten," Marcus said, his voice a low growl. "They are cancerous." Blackwood is scum. Sarah, his chief operating officer, agreed. "This lawsuit is a shakedown. He is trying to force a settlement out of us. He is betting you will pay millions to avoid another media circus." "He is wrong," Marcus said. He watched the internal diner camera feed as Emily stared at the check, her face torn with anguish. He thinks she is a coward. He is betting on her being weak. I am betting he is wrong. What is the play, Marcus? Sarah asked. We send in our lawyers. We expose Vance. No, Marcus said, turning from the screen. You cannot fight an echo with more noise. Blackwood is offering her a check. I'm going to offer her a choice. He grabbed his jacket. Ready, my jet? I'm going to Kansas. It was just after 10 p.m. The diner was closed. Emily was in her tiny childhood bedroom, the check and the affidavit burning a hole on her nightstand. She was at war with herself, her life, or her soul. A quiet electric sedan pulled up outside her parents' modest house. A few seconds later, there was a soft, firm knock on the front door. Her heart leaped. He is back. Vance is back. She crept down the stairs, looked through the peephole. And her heart stopped for a completely different reason. It was not Robert Vance, it was Marcus Thorne. She fumbled with the lock and opened the door. He stood on her porch, dressed simply, his hands in his pockets. Mr. Thorne, she stammered. What? How? Hello, Emily, he said calmly. I got your letter. May I come in? She led him wordlessly to the small, dark living room. How did you find me? She whispered. It was not hard, he said. I came because I know about Mr. Vance, the $250,000, the affidavit. Emily's head snapped up, her eyes wide with a new terror. You know? I know, Marcus said, his voice kind but firm. They are doing to you exactly what they did to me, Emily. They are trying to pin a false narrative on you. They are trying to buy your voice. And if they cannot buy it, they will destroy it. That check on your nightstand, it is a bribe, but it is also a prison. You take it and they own you. You are their lie. You will never be free. But he threatened me, she cried, the words tumbling out. He said he would ruin me. He would put me in jail. I cannot fight them. Mr. Thorne, I am just a waitress. You are not, though, Marcus said, his voice hardening just a fraction. You are the one person who was in that galley who knows the unquestionable truth. Patricia was angry. I was calm. Blackwood is not afraid of your lies, Emily. He is terrified of your truth. He stood and walked to the front door, then turned. Julian Blackwood is holding a press conference in New York tomorrow morning. He is going to announce his lawsuit and claim he has a whistleblower. You. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. I am also holding a press conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the W Hotel. Right across the street from the old Oceanic Tower. My jet is at the regional airport. It can be in the air in 20 minutes. You can stay here. You can take the money, sign the lie, and live with it. Or you can come with me. You can stand next to me. You can tell your story. All of it. The voyage, the firing, the bribe. They took your job, Emily. They took your security. Do not let them take your name too. You are not a coward. You are just untested. This is the test. He did not wait for an answer. He walked out and got into his car. Emily stood frozen, her body vibrating. She looked up the stairs at her dark, sleeping, dead-end life. She looked at the porch where Marcus Thorne had just stood. She ran back to her room, grabbed the check and the affidavit. She did not rip them up. She folded them evidence. She grabbed her keys and ran out the door as Marcus's car was pulling away. Wait. She sprinted down the driveway, waving. Wait. I am coming. I am coming with you. The car stopped. The back door opened. Emily Carter got in, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with a terrifying, exhilarating, and unfamiliar power. The ballroom at the W Hotel was packed. The press had been called for an emergency Synapse Systems announcement regarding Oceanic Horizon. Across the street, Julian Blackwood, setting up his own press conference, was completely blindsided. He and his team watched the live feed on a monitor, their faces pale. Marcus Thorne walked to the podium. Good morning. 6 months ago, was a passenger on Oceanic Horizon Voyage 815. What happened on that ship was a failure of culture. And that culture had its consequences. Today, the remnants of that failed company, led by Mr. Julian Blackwood, have attempted to rewrite history. They are filing a frivolous and defamatory lawsuit claiming I staged the incident. Their entire case is built on a single coerced witness. They believe they can buy and bully the truth. They are wrong. He turned. I would like to introduce you to that witness. Her name is Emily Carter. She was the junior cruise steward on Voyage 815. A door opened. Emily walked out. She was in a simple professional dress. She was terrified, but she walked to the podium. Blackwood, watching the feed, screamed, "No, no." Vance said he had her. Emily gripped the podium. "My name is Emily Carter," she began, her voice trembling, then steadying. "I was there. I was in the galley." Marcus Thorne was polite. He was quiet. He was harassed by my senior crew. What happened to him was wrong. She then pulled the items from her pocket. And yesterday, a lawyer from Oceanic Horizon's new leadership, Robert Vance, came to my workplace. He threatened me. He offered me this. She held up the cashier's check. The cameras zoomed in. Pay to the order of Emily Carter. $250,000. This was a bribe, Emily said, her voice ringing with clarity and power. It was payment to sign this, a false affidavit full of lies claiming Mr. Thorne was the aggressor. They were paying me to destroy an innocent man's reputation. I was a coward on that ship. I stayed silent. But I will not be silent anymore. This is the real Oceanic Horizon. It is a company built on bullies and liars. She placed the check and the affidavit on the podium. The room exploded in a flash of cameras. Across the street, Blackwood's world dissolved. The bankruptcy judge who had been watching the press conference called. The line was open for 1 second. The judge said, "You are done, Mr. Blackwood. It is over. Liquidation now." The line went dead. On the stage, Emily Carter stepped back, breathing heavily. Marcus Thorne stepped up and put a hand gently on her shoulder. "Ms. Carter will not be taking questions," he said. "She will, however, be starting a new job on Monday as the first ever executive director of the Thorne Carter Grant, where she will oversee a $50 million fund dedicated to providing ethical training and career placement for service industry whistleblowers." He looked into the camera, his cold anger now replaced with a quiet final resolution. The echo of Oceanic Horizon is now silent. This ends today. They thought he was just a passenger. They thought he was a problem. They thought they could dispose of a man in a bright blue hoodie, unaware that they were throwing away their entire future. The incident on Voyage 815 was not just an act of prejudice. It was a billion-dollar mistake. It shows us that in our modern world, respect is not just a virtue. It is a valuation. The highest price a company can pay is the cost of its own bigotry. Thank you so much for listening. This story is a reminder that you never ever know who you are talking to. What did you think of Patricia's and Braden's ultimate karma? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love stories where arrogance and prejudice get the justice they deserve, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button. Do not forget to ring the bell so you never miss a single story. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next one.